you all here gathered for our opening reception for the 6th cohort of our Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. The Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship is a partnership between Temple Beth Shalom in Needham, Massachusetts, and Eastern University in St. David's, Pennsylvania. This has been a fellowship that was founded by David and Sydney Feldman, and you will hear from David later this evening about the fellowship and the history of it. And we wanted to start by sharing a little bit about the two institutions that this fellowship brings together. This is the first time we've had an opening reception that brings together members of the extended Temple Beth Shalom community and members of the extended Eastern University community. In a typical non-COVID year, we usually have an opening reception at Temple Beth Shalom in the fall when the fellows are joining with us there. And we have another opening reception in the spring at Eastern University when we travel to Eastern University. So this is a first for us to have members from both communities all here in one place. So Taylor, if you wouldn't mind starting our slides. We'll just share a little bit about our two institutions so those from the opposite institutions can learn about us.
I do not have the slides, Rachel.
Oh, okay. I will share our slides. No problem. Sorry about that. In the meantime, I will just let you know sort of who I am, and I'll introduce myself. I am Rachel Happel. I am the Director of K-12 Learning at Temple Beth Shalom in Needham. So I support the Temple Beth Shalom half of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship, and it is always a joy every year. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do here is to support the learning of our teens as they join together with their Christian partners from Eastern. All right, I'm ready to share my screen now. All right, are you seeing my presentation? I don't know what happened. Okay. So Temple Beth Shalom is a Reform congregation. We're affiliated with the Union for Reform Judaism, which is one of the more liberal branches of Judaism. And we are located in Needham, Massachusetts, which is about 10 miles outside of Boston. We serve about 1,000 households in our congregation, many of whom we come together in worship, for learning, celebration. Our mission statement is here on the screen. You can see what brings us together. And really our goal is to foster a community within Needham and Greater Boston together. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about Eastern University.
Well, thank you, Rachel. I'm Joseph Modica, and I have the delight of serving as the university chaplain at Eastern University and been involved in the fellowship since its beginning. And I just wanted to say, it's so good to see folks gathered this evening. Many of you know that today is the U.S. Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it's no coincidence, so to speak, that we're both together on this day with shared learning and solidarity. So I'm grateful that we're together, especially on this day. It's so good to see alumni from the CIF, as well as Dr. Betty Ann Brigham, who was with me at the beginning. And so a lot of appreciation to be extended. So Eastern University is a Christian university enrolling about 3,500 students in undergraduate, graduate, professional, seminary, and international programs. Our main campus, and this is where the students from Temple Beth Shalom would be at, is in St. David's, Pennsylvania, not far from Villanova University, outside of Philadelphia. And we also have campuses in Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and also online. And one thing I'll mention a little bit about Eastern. We talk about faith, reason, and justice as our core values for our institution. What you see there, and if someone was to ask me about Eastern University as a Christian university, I would tell them 4 words or phrases. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we want to move into the program. But as the university chaplain during the last 28 years, my hope is that this is a reality as a community. First is we believe in hospitality. that we're a welcoming community. As our president has often said, we are a Christian university for all students who want to join us in this endeavor. We want to welcome people. So hopefully we demonstrate a place of welcome. We create spaces of hospitality. The next next word is ecumenical. As a Christian university, we're quite diverse in regards to what Christianity represents. So we have people in the Roman Catholic tradition that come to Eastern, in the Protestant tradition with all its denominations, and in the Orthodox tradition. So these three major branches of Christianity. So we're quite ecumenical. In some ways, that is a blessing, and at times can be a challenge as we try to get along with each other and find common ways of living and following Jesus of Nazareth. The third is generous orthodoxy, and that just means that we want to affirm the essentials of the Christian faith. We want to have liberty in the non-essentials, and we want to have charity in all things. So we try to affirm the core values, the core beliefs of Christianity. So that's kind of a generous orthodoxy. And then lastly, a robust gospel, a big gospel. And that is a gospel, as you can see on the left-hand side, which will incorporate faithfulness, the life of the mind in the sense of the quest of reason, and being able to ask questions of who we are and what is our role in the world, and then the work towards justice. And the word gospel simply means good news in Christianity, the good news of the gospel, the good news of who Jesus Christ is and his teaching. So those are the four characteristics that I would use to describe this university, Eastern University. Now, if we were to ask another member of our community, it may come up with four different terms, but since I'm the university chaplain and I have the floor right now, we'll use these four terms there, but good. I would like to now, it's a delight to have two of the religious leaders of our respective institutions going to offer some remarks and a word of blessing. We'll have first Rabbi Jay Perlman, followed by President Ron Matthews.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so good evening, friends. While I wish that we could be gathered in person in one of our communal homes, either at TBS or at Eastern, we know that our coming together virtually does not diminish, even by a little bit, our joy of coming together. Warm and heartfelt greetings to you all, not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of Rabbi Todd Markley, Rabbi Julie Bressler, our senior educators, Rachel Happel, as you know, and Ellen Dietrich, as well as from our congregation's president, Eugene Stein, our board, and our extended Beth Shalom community. Special welcome to our close friends, Joe Modica, and of course to President Ron Matthews, and to our 2020-2021 Chamberlain Interfaith Fellows from Eastern, Caitlin, Mary, Ryan, and Andrew, as well as our TBS Fellows, Hannah, Evie, Leah, and Jacob, and all of your families. Always endless thanks to David and Sydney Feldman, the entire Feldman family, and of course to Leah and the family of Dr. Ched Chamberlain. May his memory be for a blessing, in whose name and legacy of outreach we are gathered this evening. It is perfect that we come together tonight in the afterglow of both Easter and Passover. The redemptive spirit of both of these festivals speaks of promise and of hope, of peoples made better by their shared commitment to fulfill their faith community's highest visions for what life and our world may yet become. And while it is that in each of our traditions, the Holy One of all sets the tone, covenantally calling us to become bearers of blessing, it is up to us to step forward and to respond. In Hebrew, to affirm one's willingness to act is to say the word hineni, here I am. It is a sacred echo through text of the response of Abraham and Sarah and of Moses when the call to step forward was issued by God. Hine, behold, ani, I. Behold, my I, my full self, is present and prepared to engage in life-changing, world-transforming work. This is the heart of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. To bring together amazing young leaders from different faith families in order to learn from each other, to grow through their explorations of each other's and their own traditions, and to be inspired to continue to partner with others to heal a broken world. As we begin what I am certain will be a great weekend, a word of prayer. May our fellows, in opening their hearts and their minds, be enriched by the experience of being both students and teachers. May this Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship journey be one that fosters thoughtful questions, friendship, and yes, fun. And may our Temple Beth Shalom and Eastern University communities continue to work closely with one another in abiding friendship, together paving a path that helps to bring our world closer to blessed peace. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Perlman, and thank you so much to the Feldmans and to Chamberlain family for the witness intergenerationally of families that have expressed and experienced love and life together. To the Chamberlain Fellows of both Temple Beth Shalom and Eastern University, what a wonderful tribute to the values and to the history that we share together in the faith journey. It's also an honor to serve Eastern University. It consists of 7 colleges, and for the past 3.5 years to serve in this role has been humbling, educational, wonderful, and I'm honored that from the very onset of my service at Eastern, it involved an experience with the Chamberlain Fellowship. So grateful and honored to be here tonight with all of you and to look at the screen. And even though it is a screen and it's digital and computerized and all of that, it still feels better than trying to have a conference call. So to that end, there's a lot to be thankful for. As we know, there are differences between Judaism and Christianity, and within Judaism, there are differences with itself and with Christianity likewise, as Joe alluded. You know, in many churches, the Sunday school answer is typically Jesus. If you don't know the answer, just say Jesus. So that's one of the distinctives of Christianity. In light of that, I'm going to be referring to the grace that comes from redemptive history. Having, as we've experienced this week with Passover and with Easter, we experience these themes of triumph over tragedy, of hope over despair, of life over death, and love over all. And I think that these themes are glorious themes, and they're themes that are picked up in what we share and in also even in some of our distinctives. So when Jesus was asked, well, what's the greatest commandment? The first place he went to was to the Shema in Deuteronomy 6. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your being, your might. And then when asked that question, Jesus, after saying that, also summarizes the law by saying, and the second commandment is like the first. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So one of the bridge personalities for Christianity was the Apostle Paul, because he affirmed for his whole ministry that he was a Jew, that he was a Pharisee. In fact, he took pride in that, calling himself a Pharisee of the Pharisees. So I'm going to be drawing on the Apostle Paul's writings in 2 ways. First, the fact that he says some very radical things about what love looks like. And in an age where there has been such dissent and antipathy and polarization and politicization, it's so great that we can sit here respectfully in love, even amid differences. And so part of that is the integrity and authenticity of those differences and the love that comes from respecting those differences. So the first passage is known as the love chapter. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but there's some strong language here where it says, if I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. Now, parenthetically, my whole career, apart from this current role, has been as a musician. So Paul has already offended me because I like those instruments, but those are not the heroes. So I go on. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so I can remove mountains, and if I have love, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Then it goes to the more virtuistic aspects of love. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but celebrates the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. And so when we talk in the Christian tradition about love, we think probably of that famous verse, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And so we see that revelation as really being significant for us in what we believe. So the Apostle Paul closes this one section of writing in one of the writings that's called epistles, the epistle of Ephesians, this letter that he wrote to a church. And it's this passage about love. And when Paul talked about love, he experienced both hatred and love in his life. There's one passage where he boasts about all the things he suffered. He got beat up, he got stoned, he spent a day and a half in the ocean, he was lost, imprisoned, and he goes on and on. So it's kind of significant that he would, rather than harbor animosity, he gives this passage, which I would like us to receive in our various traditions, seeing that there is that redemptive aspect of love, of suffering, of hope, and of the kingdom of God for the future. As the angels acknowledged and celebrated that there would be peace on earth to those of goodwill. And so tonight we celebrate people of goodwill together. And with this, I'd like to read a Christian passage from the book of Ephesians. It says this, it's a prayer. For this reason, I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth takes its name. I pray that according to the riches of God's glory, God may grant that you may be strengthened in your inner being with power through God's Spirit, and that Jesus may dwell in your hearts through faith, as you are being rooted and grounded in love. I pray that you may have the power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Jesus that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Now to God, who by the power at work within us is able to accomplish abundantly far more than all we can ask or imagine. To God be glory in the church, in the world, in all generations through Christ, forever and ever. Amen. And I conclude with that wonderful reminder that love is patient, love bears all things, love does not demand its own. And we are people here tonight of goodwill, called to overcome evil with good, to overcome hatred with love, and despair with hope. I thank you so much for the privilege of sitting here with you together tonight, and to all of the fellows who will be enjoying this whole week and weekend. Blessings on you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Perlman. Thank you, President Matthews, for your remarks. We greatly appreciate them. One of the blessings of having a cohort 6 is that we have alumni now of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. If I counted correctly, I think there's at least 5 alumni present in the Zoom room. And I also include a 6th person would be Dr. Betty Ann Brigham, who was with me from the beginning. And so if you are an alumni of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship, could you please just wave? Let us know that you're here from different cohorts. I see your hands there. It is so good to see you, and thank you for being here. These students have survived the van ride to Boston with me, right? Some of you sat up in front, and it was a little dangerous, or at least a little bit, holding on to the GPS and trying to get to where we had to go. But God bless you, and thank you for coming this evening. If I counted correctly, we have, including cohort 6, 45 students that have gone now through the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. We have a video. That's wonderful, 45 students. And so there's an alumni video that Rachel Happel put together, so we want to show it to you now, the alumni video of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship.
Hi, my name is Nika Skelton. I had the privilege of serving in the Interfaith Fellowship during my time at Eastern, and I still just think it was one of the most impactful experiences I had while attending Eastern. You get to see your faith through the lens of someone practicing a different faith, and yet they're so similar. And so you're diving deeper into your faith and assessing why you believe the things that you believe. And so coming out of it, I just had a much stronger faith and a much greater appreciation for my faith. It is a vessel for God bringing peace on earth through other people understanding each other. So thank you so much. Bye.
Hi, my name is Dora Evans, and I participated in the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship as a TBS junior 3 years ago. I found the experience extremely valuable as it gave me an opportunity to learn about new ways of looking at the world. One of the strongest memories I have from my time at Eastern University is from one night when I was lying in bed talking to one of the Eastern Fellows. I wrestled with whether or not I believe in God for as long as I can remember, and she was asking me what I believed Judaism could teach me without focusing on God. Although I'd thought about this question during my bat mitzvah and confirmation processes, this is the first time that I was asked to fully articulate it to someone who didn't have a background in Reform Judaism. As I talked, I realized that I was discovering my own beliefs at the same time. This was reflective of my whole experience, because not only did it teach me more about Christianity, but it gave me an opportunity to more fully examine what I believe and how I practice Judaism. I believe that not only did the Chamberlain Fellowship prepare me for these conversations and others I've had in the past year, but it gave me a foundation in how to talk to people with different belief systems than me, which is an invaluable skill as I move into my adult life.
I want to briefly express my gratitude for having been part of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship a few years ago. In this experience, I learned many things about my own faith as well as the Jewish faith. I learned things about the differences between each tradition relate to each other, about how wide the variety of different ideas and doctrines are in each tradition. And also learn how people from each tradition is able to interact with each other in a way that is respectful and kind and honoring of the other. I think our leaders from Eastern University and Temple Beth Shalom are really good at expressing these things. This experience was really helpful for me, learning about myself and about those that are around me. And I wish that the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship would continue for many more years. And I'm really grateful for all of you for supporting this and for making it a reality. Thank you all. Shalom.
Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship is one of the most incredible experiences I have ever had. I made a truly lifelong friendship in this program. My fellow at Eastern, we are so close, and I am so grateful for our friendship. We both agree that it's a very special and a very unique one, because it's primarily based on curiosity and respectful understanding of each other's religious practices, which is just kind of the coolest thing ever, especially considering the fact that I believe that the way towards world peace, in terms of the religious sense, is by having interfaith dialogue between young people. And I'm so grateful for that relationship that I have with her. Whenever we talk, we're able to have really profound and thoughtful and considerate conversations about each other's faiths. And that's what makes Chamberlain so special, is that they facilitate those conversations and those relationships.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Fabroso, and I was a member of the 2017-2018 cohort of the CIF Fellowship. I had a really wonderful experience being a part of the fellowship that whole year, and it was really awesome. And I learned a lot about what holy envy is and what it feels like to experience it, as well as just faith in general. Because of my positive experience that I had with the CIF Fellowship, I actually ended up spending a month this past summer over at TBS doing research for my senior thesis that I'm actually writing up right now to present on TBS. It was really a great time to spend so much time over at TBS, and I met many wonderful individuals and really felt like I belonged in the TBS community. And that right there is what TBS wants for everyone who steps foot through those doors.
Hi, I'm Julia. I was in the 2018-2019 cohort, and the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship was an amazing opportunity and an amazing experience. A moment that really stood out to me was when we went to Eastern University and participated in the Windows on the World presentation. Hearing from my TBS fellows about what made Judaism so special to them, and from the Eastern fellows about what made Christianity so important for them, was such an eye-opening opportunity, and it made me realize how similar our religions really are. And after this experience, I just felt so much more connected to Judaism and more compelled to want to learn about other religions, including Christianity. So I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity and to have had the experience with Eastern that I did.
Yep, we can give a silent Zoom cheer. Thanks, everyone. Really, the words of our alumni say it the best. You know, we could all talk about the fellowship, those of us who help lead it, but really hearing the words of the alumni and the fellows who participate is so moving. I think perhaps the only person who could speak more about the fellowship would be David Feldman, who is the founder of the fellowship, and we are so thankful to David for his vision, for his generosity, and for bringing this to both of our communities and bringing it to life. So with that, I would love to introduce David to share a few words with the group. Oh, David, you're still muted.
David's first time on Zoom.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the 6th year of the Dr. Ted Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. Ted was a dean of students at Eastern from 1976 through 2004 and had a profound influence on the community that he served. A person of deep faith, he was interested in learning and sharing with those whose religious traditions differed from his own, and encouraged his students and colleagues to follow his example. Ted was warm, modest, and a friendly leader whose example was profound and easy to follow. Our friendship began when we were toddlers living 5 houses away from one another in Newton Center, Massachusetts, 7 decades ago. It continued until his unexpected demise in 2010 and included our wives, children, and their spouses, and the 12 grandchildren we share. We spent thousands of hours together over that long time span, and I was privileged to speak at his funeral with another close friend and colleague of his. It was a powerful experience for me and helped me realize what a privilege it was to maintain a close friendship with a person of his character for such a long time period. Ted's passing was a great loss for his family, friends, colleagues, and the students he served. He left a great legacy, which was well worth perpetuating. After talking to his wife, Leah, we approached Eastern University and Temple Beth Shalom, our synagogue in Needham, Mass, to see if they were interested in a series of monthly phone calls to determine if a program focusing on interfaith relationships and learning could be created in Ted's memory as a lasting legacy of the example he set and an opportunity for students from both institutions to learn about each other's faith traditions. After a year of conferring, everyone agreed that such an initiative had merit and the fellowship was born. When the students from Eastern first arrived in Needham at Temple Beth Shalom for the very first fellowship with Dr. Joe Modica, their chaplain and leader, we had a dinner for them, and then they met their new friends and cohorts from Temple Beth Shalom. Following the dinner, all attended our traditional Sabbath service. At the conclusion of every weekly service, our rabbi reads the names of all those congregants and their family members who passed away during the previous 30 days or whose anniversary of their passing was that week. Rabbi J. Perlman, excuse me, read all the names and concluded the list with the name Dr. Ted Chamberlain. His name has been read every year since. That gesture sets the tone for the weekend and expresses the essence of the fellowship. We very much appreciate all of your interest, support, and for joining us tonight. We hope you achieve a deeper appreciation for this fellowship. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David and Sydney Feldman, for your vision and generosity. And when I travel to Temple Beth Shalom, I stay with the Feldmans. They house me for a few days, and it's wonderful. I always look forward to coming home to Needham, in Needham, Massachusetts. I had the very good fortune of working with Dr. Ted Chamberlain for 13 years, and we are so grateful to have Leah Chamberlain, his widow, and we have the children that are here this evening. So Leah will offer some words also at this time.
Well, hi to everyone. I'm very excited that we're finally together, even though we're a little bit separated. But I'm also a little bit sad that we can't be on the beautiful university campus because it's spring down there. We've been down there many Aprils, and I know your trees are budding, your daffodils are popping, your birds are chirping, and you're probably not wearing coats. So we've got a little bit more time up here that we need to get through to be where you are probably, although we had a pretty nice day today. I'm also so grateful to David and Sydney for their vision and thoughtfulness in starting the CIF in my husband's name. And I'm also thankful to you, Joe, and to Rachel, who have spent so much time putting the program for this weekend together. We have a lot of common ground in the Jewish and Christian faith, but there is also more to explore and especially to understand. In the past, I have always been astonished with the amazing questions and the thoughtful answers that the cohorts have provided. So I'm looking forward to the next few days where we will share our faith with each other, and I'm appreciative and thankful for each person who chose to participate.
Thank you, Leah. Do another Zoom applause. Thank you so much. I too really am sad that we're not on the Eastern University campus. I look forward to that trip every spring where they are a little bit ahead of us in their spring weather. Leah and I are often seat buddies on the airplane too, so I missed our time together this year, Leah, as well. So now we are really delighted to introduce this year's Chamberlain Interfaith Fellows, Cohort 6. Joe and I were finding it hard to believe we're in the 6th year of this fellowship. This is a really amazing group. I can speak a little bit about the TBS Fellows. We have Hannah Fleckner, Evie Hafel, Leah Koritz, and Jacob Schulman. And this group is an amazing group, and I'm sure would have gotten a lot out of this if we had been meeting in person. But what has really amazed me is how much they have brought to our experience and how much they seem to have gotten out of it already, even in a virtual format. I've been meeting with them about once a month since the beginning of the year, and they have also been meeting with each other. We tried something new this year in our virtual format, that we paired up one TBS fellow and one Eastern University fellow for monthly conversations. So even before this intensive weekend together, they've been having conversations with each other with some guided questions where they could begin that interfaith sharing. And it sounds as if from the reports I hear, they've been getting a lot out of it. So at this point, I want to ask the TBS fellows to introduce themselves. I believe you know what order you're going in, but I'll remind you, it's Hannah, then Evie, then Leah, then Jacob. You can just each unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hannah Fleckner. I'm a junior at Needham High School in Needham, Massachusetts. And I'm hearing an echo because I'm down the hall from Rachel Happel at Temple Beth Shalom right now. Was I supposed to answer the question now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I joined the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship to kind of get a new understanding of Christianity, because Needham is a more Jewish populated town than some other towns are. And I went to a Jewish day school, and I work at Temple 4 or 5 days a week. And, you know, I surround myself with the people at this Temple community, and I wanted to sort of understand what Christianity is like in that sense of the community aspect, because I think one of the most beautiful things about Judaism is the community aspect, and how it's a very the way that we celebrate is through traditions and through a culture that is really based on being with friends and family and surrounding yourself with other people. So I wanted to see how that kind of translates over into the Christian faith.
Hi, I'm Evie Hafel. If that name sounds familiar, that's because Rachel Happel is my mom. I'm from Natick, Massachusetts, and I'm a junior at Dana Hall School. And I joined the Interfaith Fellowship. It's a bit humorously similar to Hannah's, but I also surround myself with Judaism. I went to a Jewish day school. I work at the Temple. I am involved in every teen program that I possibly can. And Judaism is just such a huge part of my life that I wanted to see what kind of experiences people who are really involved in Christianity have, and how it plays into their everyday life and their experience as a whole.
Hi, my name is Leah. I live in Dover, Massachusetts. I go to Gann Academy. I think I mainly chose to participate in the fellowship, besides what Evie and Hannah said, also because I just love Judaism and talking about religion and God and theology and everything. And I kind of figured like this was like my next step on the journey, because I feel like obviously I know some or a little bit, I like to think about Judaism. And I wanted to learn more about Christianity, and I think that was kind of the next step.
Hi, my name is Jacob Schulman, and I live in Needham, and I go to high school at Needham High School. And I joined the fellowship for many reasons, but when I saw the opportunity, I immediately signed up, because it was just so fascinating to me to be able to have conversations with people that think so differently than me, but also a lot of the same things as me. And I've already enjoyed a lot of the conversations I've had, and I'm very excited for the future.
They are wonderful, the TBS Fellows. The Eastern University Chamberlain Interfaith Fellows have really endured my meetings. I mean, enjoyed the meetings we've had on a weekly basis. We actually read this semester Elie Wiesel's Night together as a group, and Temple Beth Shalom offered us 2 wonderful resources of people to come in and Zoom to help us process this work, Shira Rosenfield and Dr. Alan Stern. It was an amazing experience, but I'm very proud of these students who really ask good questions, think deeply about their faith, and want to have interactions of mutual learning. So they're going to introduce themselves. It'll be Caitlin, Mary, Ryan, and then Andrew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I am a sophomore at Eastern studying social work and biblical studies. I hail from Lawrenceville, New Jersey, so about 40 minutes away from campus. The reason that I joined the Interfaith Fellowship is because I have such a deep respect for the Jewish community, especially as I know that Jesus was Jewish when he lived on earth, and it's just, I understand that we wouldn't have Christianity without Judaism, and I wanted to learn more about the culture and the people and your guys' religion, and it's just been such an incredible experience so far, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend.
Hello, my name is Mary. I'm from Denville, New Jersey, so right outside of New York City. My major is special education, and I have a minor in urban studies. And the initial reason that I applied to be a part of the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship was really due to a conversation that I had with an education professor. I was really concerned about not being able to nurture a future classroom that integrated the beauty and complexity of inclusivity and diverse thought. And the professor explained how a key part of being able to nurture this environment is being part of it constantly. So yeah, I saw this opportunity and I thought that it was really, really important to just have this conversation and be a part of it. So yeah.
Hello, my name's Ryan Casper. I'm from Elverson, Pennsylvania, and I'm a junior at Eastern. My major is biblical studies. I have minors in history, English literature, and theology. And I joined this fellowship because I just wanted to learn a lot about Judaism. I never really known anyone from Judaism from where I live, and I just really wanted to learn more. And I care a lot about interfaith relations too. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew. I'm from Northeast Philadelphia. I'm a junior psychology major with a minor in Spanish, and I decided to join CIF because before it, I knew nothing about Judaism. All I knew was the stereotypical, you see people in a black hat and black robes. That's all I knew was the basic stereotype was that. But, so I'm like, this is something I want to know about because I knew nothing about it, And I wanted to learn the historical aspect as well as the biblical aspect of it.
Wonderful. Thank you to all the fellows for sharing and introducing yourself to the group. As we said before, this is a really, really wonderful group, and we can't wait to spend more time with you this weekend to really build on the relationship building and learning we've already started to do together. We decided that as part of our reception this evening, since we can't be eating a meal together and sitting around tables together, we wanted to give people an opportunity to meet each other and get to know each other a little bit in smaller settings. So in a minute, Taylor is going to break us into smaller breakout rooms. If you've never been in a Zoom breakout room before, here's how it works. You will, in a moment, you'll get something that pops up onto your screen that will tell you the breakout rooms are open and that you've been assigned to one of the breakout rooms, and there'll be a button that you need to press in order to enter that breakout room. And when our time in those smaller groups is done, you will automatically come back to this room here, so we will end all together as one big group. Now, when you go into your breakout rooms, we are going to ask you to do some sharing with each other. I'm going to show you what our questions are. If you want to take a screenshot or write these down, or just maybe you'll remember what you're going to share in your groups. When you share with each other, you'll share your name, where you're from, how you're connected to the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. We all have different connections here. And one reason that you think interfaith learning and relationship building is vitally important. Okay, so take a minute just to look at those, write them down, take a screenshot. Okay. All right, and with that, I think we're going to send you off to your rooms to answer those questions together.
we're going to take a few moments, Rachel and I, to share one lesson we've learned from our experiences now going 6 years working together with regards to interfaith learning and relationship. And I will say from my vantage point during the last 6 years, it is really nestled in a caring and generous friendships. So that's one thing I've learned, that interfaith learning can only occur in genuine friendships. And I think that has been a deep, deep value. So when I think of David and Sydney Feldman and Leah Chamberlain and her children, Kristen and Jenny, and their spouses, Josh and Mark, and their children, when we gather together each time. And then I think of Rabbi Jay, Rabbi Todd, and now Rabbi Julie. So many have interacted as we built something beyond just an experience. It's really become a relationship. And to me, that is really quite different. And now to have 45 students go through it is just wonderful. One other aspect, and I just want to highlight this and then turn it over to my colleague and friend, Rachel. One of the things I've certainly deeply appreciated in my time at Temple Bet Shalom, it could be from the Shabbat service to the Minyan prayer meeting to Torah study, is that one's differences with another does not have to lead to divisions. To have differences does not mean that you have to be divided. And I think that's a really great lesson that I have learned, that have shown me that differences and disagreements can be warmly welcomed in religious dialogue and tradition. And our differences don't diminish our humanity. As a matter of fact, it could actually bolster our understanding of who we are and who the other person is. If I'm not mistaken, I one time heard a Jewish scholar say that they believe that to disagree is an act of worship. To learn how to disagree well is an act of worship. And I find that to be a very important gift that I have learned in my experience in Temple Bet Shalom. And then, of course, my colleague and friend and partner over these years, Rachel Happel. I have learned a lot from Rachel, just observing what a great educator she is. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's much easier to say, but to see it has been wonderful. So I'll turn it over to you, Rachel.
Wow, thank you, Joe. You know, Joe and I we came up with this question that we were going to share, but we didn't coordinate our responses. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, I think our responses are very similar. I too was going to speak about friendship, and friendship really being the basis for the learning that we do together, and the importance of forming those relationships and that community in order to get to that depth. And I have been so appreciative of watching the fellows form those relationships each year, but especially of the friendship and relationship I have been able to form with Joe over these 6 years. I always feel like when I go to Eastern, it's like I'm going to visit extended family, and that you know, Joe is my cousin who I get to see a couple times a year, and it just feels so welcoming and so wonderful always to be together. And each year I learn something new from every conversation that I have with Joe. So I appreciate that partnership always. I really think that right now in the world, and my small group heard me say a little bit of this earlier, that it is so easy to surround ourselves with people who are like us, who and sort of create our own echo chamber, whether that's in person or whether that's on social media, where we are always surrounded with people who think like us and have a similar background to us. And I think it is really important to get out of that bubble and to meet people who come from a different place, whether it's a different faith tradition or a different background in another way. And when you do that and you're able to form those relationships and really listen to one another, it sounds a little cheesy, but you really do find that you have a lot in common. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that even though our friends from the Christian background and we from a Jewish background really understand our faith and practices differently, we all have the same goal, is that we're trying to live meaningful lives, and we're trying to connect with something bigger than ourselves. And we really try to serve our communities and people as best we can, whether that's through social justice or through worship or through learning or through all of those. And finding those connections wouldn't be possible if we didn't enter into relationship with people who may on the surface seem very different from us. And I would say that's the biggest thing I've taken away so far in these last 6 years. So thank you. And thank you, David and Sydney, for this opportunity for that learning for all of us. And with that, we thought we would end our evening with a couple of prayers for peace. Joe and I have spoken a few times, and to quote Joe, the world needs the Chamberlain Interfaith Fellowship. He likes to say that a lot, and that especially in times of strife that we need this. And we thought no better way to end than with prayers for peace. So we're each going to share a prayer for peace from our own tradition. Share my screen again. So in the Jewish tradition, we actually have many prayers for peace, but one of my favorites is Oseh Shalom, which we say at all of our, every time we come together in worship, and at other times as well. And in Hebrew, it says, Oseh Shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. And the translation is, may the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all the people of Israel, and for all who inhabit the earth. And let us say together, Amen.
Amen.
In the Christian tradition, one of the most famous prayers of peace is attributed to Saint Francis of Assisi, who in the 13th century was the founder of the Franciscan order that is connected with Roman Catholicism. So I would like to offer this from the Christian tradition of a prayer for peace. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Well, friends, we are done for this evening. Rachel and I are looking at each other via Zoom here. We want to do it together, right? We want to say good night. We don't know how to do this, it's hard. But friends, thank you for coming. Rachel, why don't you give the last word of thanks, and then you're dismissed.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It was wonderful to bring together extended communities from both institutions. And thank you for your support. And we wish you a lovely evening and an evening of peace.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.